Good evening, good evening, good evening. Thank you guys for joining me tonight. Lawana Hodges, YBC Youth Building Conversation. This evening, I am sitting down with Tierra Carter. Okay, we think that we might be related, but we haven't figured that out yet. So if there's any Carters out there that y'all know me and know her, let us know if we related because my mother maiden name is Carter. So I think we kind of related somewhere in here, but we haven't figured that out yet.
Right.
But thank you, Tia, for being on my platform.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here.
Great. So before we get into our interview, I always like to do a little disclaimer on how I met the person or know the person that I'm interviewing. So we work out together. We have a crew called the 730 crew. At Abundant Gym in Capitol Heights. Big up to Christian, our trainer. So we always train in the morning time. We make sure the ladies, we always go out to brunch together, just enjoying one another. But I work out with some amazing women. I'm gonna try to get them all on my platform because they're doing major things in our community and building our community up. But we just have a great time suffering together as we work out. Early in the morning when we don't really want to be there, but we encourage each other to keep coming, keep going, and keep making our, progress with losing weight and building muscle. So I thank you, Tia, for taking out your busy time because she's busy, y'all. Oh yeah, we got to talk about the African trip too.
I know.
Yes. She been busy in these DMV streets. But before we get started, if you can pray us in, and then we can start with the interview.
All right. You want me to pray? Oh, Lord.
You pray.
Okay. It has. All right. We come to you right now, Father. Let us thank you first and foremost for this opportunity, for this time that will be shared, for the wisdom that will be brought forth. But most importantly, we thank you for the fellowship and what transformation will take place. We ask that you continue to bless this space, both the hearer and the listener. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. So I always ask the person that I'm interviewing, who is Tierra Carter?
So I don't, I hate those questions, to be very honest, but they stretch me. And I think as you ask that question, what comes up for me is that there's who I am and then there's what I do. And I think sometimes people can mix or confuse the two, but I want to make the distinction that who I am, I'm a healer, I'm an educator, I'm a soul food enthusiast, I'm a traveler. I love to see, I love to do, I love to be a part of. But what I do, I just hold space for healing. So I don't know. I kind of answered that question, but I think it was a bit deeper than a surface answer.
Okay, now you missed the other question I was going to say. Describe 5 adjectives that describe yourself. So she already answered. She gave
adjectives. No, I got adjectives.
Okay. But describe 5 adjectives that describe yourself.
I would say I am eccentric for sure. I am a free thinker. I am astute. I love to learn. I will always probably be in somebody's school somehow, teaching something or learning something. I'm very driven. Just about anything you put in front of me, I'm gonna go after it if I want it. And I think I'm pretty progressive. Some people say I'm a little traditional, but I really think I'm very progressive. So that's my adjective.
Okay, so I'm gonna put a exclamation point right here because seeing her in the gym, it's a difference than seeing the doctor, the PhD doctor, right here in front of us. I'm just saying, when I was reading your bio, I was like, okay. I was like, all right, T. Okay.
I'm just regular.
So,
We're
how
all
have the past 2 years with COVID and all the other worldly things that's happening? How did you cope? How have you coped?
I don't know if I did. You know, when people ask me that, I don't know if there was really a way to cope with COVID because it touched so many different aspects of our lives. And I think it's still touching different aspects. It's like uncovering things and transforming things still to this day. But what I will say is, I think COVID allowed me the opportunity to slow down. um, I'm always busy. I've always been busy. I've always liked to have my hands in a lot of pots doing a lot of things. But when COVID hit, it wasn't optional anymore for me to sit down. I had to do that. And when I was still enough, it gave me the chance to really do the looking, to really start dealing with, I guess, myself and my mess and my fears and my inhibitions and start my own journey towards healing.
Yeah.
So I think maybe that's how I cope with COVID, but I don't know. Coping is we still going through it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's still here. It's not being talked about, but
yeah,
but it's still here and it's still live and people getting a little bit more comfortable than they should. But I mean, we still dealing with it. So you got your undergrad in Louisiana at Xavier University.
I did.
What made you go way down there and then come back here? Because I would have stayed in Louisiana. But what made you go there to go to school and then decide to come back this way?
So I'll say what had me go down there was a knowing that I was supposed to be there. Um, That sounds real like woo woo, but looking back, that's the only way I can describe it because I had never been to Louisiana before. I had never been to New Orleans before.
Right.
I knew one other person who had gone to Xavier who was a doctor. And at the time, I was like, I want to be a medical doctor. This is where I got to go. And I locked in on it at maybe like 17. I just locked in. That's where I was going to go. But I had never visited, I had never gone. But I will say, living in Louisiana, New Orleans specifically, raised me. You know, I'm from this area, so this will always be home. But New Orleans raised me. Like it grew me up. It taught me how to be a hustler. It taught me how to be a finesse. It taught me how to be productive. It taught me how to see people and not just understand them as a means to an end. You know, it taught me people's humanity. And I think being from this area, we can be a little jaggy around the, okay, just a little bit around the edges, especially for your southerner. And I think it showed me that I had the opportunity. I could just smooth out my sides a little bit. So Louisiana really helped me smooth out my sides. Now coming back home, I that's also a very funny story because, like you knew, I would have stayed in New Orleans. Like, why wouldn't you? It's New Orleans. But at the time, I didn't really know how I wanted to make the next move in my life happen. I just knew I wanted to make something happen, and I had actually, I had actually changed my major the junior year before I graduated. So I graduated in 4 years, but I had changed it from pre med psychology to just general psychology. So now I wasn't going to medical school anymore. I was going to go get my PhD. So I wasn't really sure how I wanted to navigate that space. I was still figuring it out, but someone put in my ear that I needed to get my master's and do it right after undergrad. And I just decided, well, I guess I'm gonna be a therapist, so I'm gonna get my master's in therapy as a counselor. And I looked for organizations that had that degree, and Bowie State had one.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I'm back home. I guess I might as well do that. So that's how I ended up back home. I got into Bowie State. I only applied to Bowie State. I didn't think I was. Listen, I really was looking for an out to not go straight into my next program, but God saw fit that I went straight through. So I moved back home and started my master's and graduated from that at the end of 2019. Um, and I think that's maybe when I understood my calling. That's maybe when I really got clear, maybe by accident, that I was supposed to be a therapist and I was supposed to be in the space of transforming people and healing people.
Okay.
So yeah, that's it.
We have like I tell my kids, don't stop, keep going,
Right,
because if
right.
you stop, it's harder. It's
Mhm.
harder to get back into it. But if you go from one and then go to the next, and okay, I want my PhD, go, yeah, yeah, and just get it all out the way, and then be done with it. So, in saying that, how important is it to seek therapy, especially the young generation as well as the older generation?
You know, I think it. We have to. Let me say this. We're all a work in progress, right? From the oldest of the old to the youngest of the young. And I think it's less about us needing therapy and more about us needing human connection, more about us needing communication. And therapy is just a space that really helps facilitate growth. And growth is really done through communication. So I think all of us deserve to grow. All of us have to grow. We're human beings, and over time, we're going to evolve. And I think therapy is just a mechanism that helps facilitate that process. So I think everybody should have a therapist. I'm a therapist and I have a therapist, and my therapist has a therapist. Shout out to her. So it's bigger than just, oh, you need to go to therapy. It's more so, no, there's just something about being across from another person,
Yeah,
being able to show up authentically
yeah,
without judgment
yeah,
that transforms you. It moves you, it grows you. So
yeah,
that's why I think so. Yeah, therapy is necessary.
yeah. So you answered my other question. Do you think therapists should also seek out therapy as well? So
Yeah.
yeah,
I, I would, and I want to add to that. I just think, I think therapists, maybe we don't talk enough about how what we do can be dark work. What we do can be very heavy, and it can take something of us in order to do that day in and day out for years and years at a time. And there aren't enough conversations, I think, that we are having as clinicians around the needs we need to be filled back up, to support ourselves. We all have a responsibility as clinicians to practice our self-care and, the speech about it. But there's also a very real reality when you understand the backhanded mechanisms that are impacting people's lives, when you understand that a lot of the traumas and the difficulties that people face and deal with are systemic, and I can't necessarily touch to change the system. It can get you can become ambivalent, you can become resigned and cynical. And
yeah,
so it's necessary for clinicians to talk to other clinicians, to talk to other people, to have therapists, because we can't just, I don't know, we can't just make the assumption that because we're in the helping profession, we don't need to be helped.
yeah. That's good. That's good. So let's talk about the Black community.
Talk about it.
So why do you think we fear or do not seek therapy?
I think we've been misinformed and I think we've been misled. And I think on top of that, there's the the age old saying that we don't air our dirty laundry, even if this person is supposed to hear it. Like, that's what therapists do. We're here to hear your dirty laundry, like that.
Right.
So I think talking to someone has become so stigmatized in our community. It's not so much that we don't want to get the help. It's we have to get out of our own ways to see it as not help, but maybe see it as um, grow. We have to see it as something other than what has been painted for us, basically. And we, it's work. I think it's more work than it is anything else. And a lot of times I think we don't, on top of all the other things that we have to do or take on in our lives, we want to also show up and have to do work here too.
Yeah.
But that's the work that kind of eases all the other work or the stressors that we're dealing with. And again, it goes back to the stigma of things, you
Yeah.
know.
So how do you feel about, since COVID happened, a lot of coaches
Mhm.
been nervous.
Mhm. Mhm.
Out of there's a coach for everything.
Mhm.
How do
Mhm.
you feel? How do you feel about that? How do you guys that are licensed therapists feel about people that are coaches?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I'm gonna say this first. I'm a I'm a believer in not knocking anybody's hustle, right? And not saying that people get into things for the hustle of it, but if you feel that you can make a considerable impact in the community this way and you can monetize off of it, hey, more power to you. But I do kind of have an issue when coaching becomes the replacement for the clinical mechanism of therapy, right? Like I spent 3.5, almost 4 years combined between undergrad and grad school, really learning the mechanisms of the therapeutic process. And we don't really, quote unquote, talk about them because it's about the action of them. But there is an art to being a therapist. There's an art to being a mental health counselor, to being a social worker, to being a trained clinician to be able to offer mental health related services. So I think my problem, or if I have a problem, but just the difficulty when we talk in community, one shouldn't replace the other. I think they should both be able to exist together simultaneously. And the same way you don't go to a chiropractor to get your feet done, you maybe shouldn't go to a coach to deal with mental health difficulties,
Gotcha.
right?
Yeah.
There, you go to the right doctor to fix the right
Right.
problem, right?
They're different. They're totally totally
Yeah,
different. So
yeah.
why is it important? So why is it important to you that you advocate in the minority community about seeking therapy or changing the stigma of what therapy really is?
I think it's important because representation matters. And when we talk about legacy, like us as a collective people, I don't think we want our legacy to be that of pain and trauma and difficulty and turmoil. And I think at some moment we should offer generations the opportunity to live in ease, to live in luxury, to live in wonderlust, to live peacefully and not be in that constant process of processing. So I think it's important for us as Black people to show up in therapy spaces because it reminds the next generation that the work isn't done and we can still do it. Like it's on us as a people to do that work. Um, and only, I hate to say it, but like only us can help us process our shit.
Okay. Yeah.
Like not saying that other clinicians of other races and cultures cannot help us through that process, but it's nothing like being seen by a Black clinician across from you who understands your experience, who understands every aspect of your being, even down to a biological level, and there's nothing to replace that therapeutic relationship.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree. I'm an advocate for therapy. I'm gonna get into therapy myself.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm an advocate for therapy. I had my kids in therapy, and it worked good wonders because kids don't always tell you what's
Correct.
going on, and then they can be hearing their friends' problems or issue that's weighing them down. So who are they going to talk to about it? So that's why I seek out counseling for my children, and
Right.
they loved going. They didn't feel different about it. They made friends from it, and to say, oh, I might suffer with anxiety. Well, guess what? I met peers that suffer from the same thing, but as a group, this is how we're coping. This is what
Yeah.
we're doing to
Yeah.
to make it work. So yeah, I agree with it. So
Yeah.
what are some of your challenges you have as a younger entrepreneur? Because you
Mhm.
what's
I'm,
your age?
I'm 20. I'll be 29 next Tuesday. So
Oh Lord, I thought you was in your 30s. Oh Lord. Oh my God. Man,
I know.
listen, clap it up. And you got your PhD. Go ahead. And you got your PhD. Go ahead. And you got
In
your PhD.
October. I will have it fully in October. It's not quite
Yes.
confirmed
And
yet.
she's
But
getting
yeah.
her PhD fully in
Yeah.
October. Yes. And you
Yeah.
only 29.
Yeah.
Go ahead, girl. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you. And before I answer that question, I actually want to circle back to something you said that I said earlier in the question around coaches versus therapists or like mental health professionals. Um, I don't want to invalidate the importance and the necessity of also having coaches. So I know I made it very clear that you go to one for one and a doctor for right. Like they are two different processes. But I want to also be very clear that coaches are just as important and necessary and a part of the healing journey. And when you find a good coach, like a life coach, because in my mind, life coaches are another structure or mechanism of accountability to help you see through into your goals or into your realization. So when you find that, that mold, that meshes, absolutely. They're just as important and necessary as that mental health therapist who helped you uncover that childhood trauma that had that, what I mean? So I want to make that distinction. They're just as important. I just think they need to be, we need to know who to go to for what. But circling back to answer your second question or the question you just asked, my biggest obstacles.
No, not your
So I,
biggest yeah, your challenges of
my
being
biggest
a
challenges.
younger entrepreneur.
Yes. So I would say two of them. One would be finding the balance. Like the biggest difficulty when you are juggling entrepreneurship, being young, and maybe, still being yourself, like still exploring what it means to define yourself. It can be very difficult to find that balance. It can be hard to um, not swing too far to one end of the spectrum or the other. So sometimes I will find myself just like 6 or 8 weeks of like going super hard, head down, tunnel vision. And now I'm neglecting my health. Now I haven't been to the gym. Now I haven't, it's no groceries in my house. Like it's for me, it's that like, okay, how do I balance still meeting all the necessary requirements that this now business is requiring of me and still survive, still do all my adulting that I'm supposed to do. And then I would say the second challenge as a young entrepreneur is just fear of the unknown. Um, so I haven't been on the earth but 28 years. So there's a
Well,
whole
to
lot of
be
life,
to be 28 again.
but that consideration though, because it's a whole lot of life that I haven't lived yet. Like it's a whole lot of things that just I'm naive to because I just haven't had that lived experience yet. So when you're a business owner and you're trying to like make long-term projections or even real-time projections, it can be daunting. It can be terrifying. Like, well, I don't know what my life is going to look like in 7 years. Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to, I don't know, So I think that has also been one of my biggest challenges is leaning in there, like just leaning into the unknown and being okay with not having concrete answers or definitive, like, yes, this is going to happen and then this is going to happen and then this is going to happen. Just being in the flow of it and understanding that all of it is a journey and you're ultimately going to arrive, but it's a journey. So be on the journey of it. So that has been, I'll say those are my two biggest, like, absolute challenges as a young business
I'm
owner.
gonna tell you, I'm gonna tell you. I know you guys out there wondering right now. She only 28, but she got so much wisdom. I didn't think she was just 28, but no, but that's good because a lot of people at 28 don't know.
Right,
They're still looking and
right,
they still searching, even though, like you said, you still don't know about the unknown,
right,
but you got part of it figured out.
right.
I think I know my purpose, and I think I'm working in my purpose. But let me
Yeah.
not get too much into my questions here myself. So so we talked about this in the gym. So how important or why is it so important to have your own practice?
Oh, um, ooh, Jesus. It is representation matters. Like that is why it is so important to have your own practice. Um, one of the biggest difficulties or like complaints that I hear when I'm in sessions with clients um, is it wasn't in my neighborhood. Like it wasn't accessible to me. I didn't feel like going across the river or uptown to this such and such place where nobody looked like me. And I think having your own practice as a Black woman, as a queer woman, as a woman who has done a maybe outside of what's considered the norm or the average, it
Mm-hmm.
it pegs for that next little girl or that next little boy that's coming behind me to show them that it's a possible and attainable for them too. That they can set up these spaces in their community that reflect their community, but that serve the community. So yeah, having your own practice as a Black person, it is a safe haven. It's a place where people who look like you know that they can be seen and that they can be heard and that they will be supported, like that they'll get the adequate care that they need. Um, and so I don't, I think honestly, like as a clinician, as a therapist, as a healer in my community, I feel like I don't really have a choice. Like it's a non-negotiable. You go into this type of work, you understand that at some point you got to have somebody's nonprofit open somewhere to
Yeah,
support the community that you are a part of
yeah,
because you are a minority and the system is not designed to see people that look like you
yeah.
and to see them win. So that's yeah.
So what have been some of your biggest achievements that your 28-year-old self had done?
Um I will say I feel like some of the biggest achievements in my life happened like in the last 6 months
Okay,
of my life.
okay.
Um, because I think prior to that, I was just, following the blueprint or just kind of doing what you're told. Um, so getting to South Africa and collecting my research, I think that was like a massive undertaking and it was a massive accomplishment on my part. I never, how you set out to do something and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna make it happen. But I didn't really believe I was gonna make it happen and it happened. So I would say that is one of my biggest accomplishments. And then just being in community with Black women globally, like just to be able to hear the stories of Black women across the world and find the community, find the connection, find the sanctuary there. So that was a magical experience. And then I would say the second biggest one that I'm most proud of is walking away from my 9 to 5. I walked away from my 9 to 5 in May to pursue therapy and my business and all my other endeavors full time. And that was one of the most terrifying things I've ever done, but it was my biggest accomplishment because I made that decision. I now can see where I am today and the opportunities that are coming in front of me, because I just trusted. I just believed that this is what I was supposed to do and trusted. So I think those are my two biggest accomplishments right now, because they have shaped my worldview of now what I see as possible.
Okay, and what part of Africa did you go to?
Yes, I was in. Well, I landed into Johannesburg, but I did my research in Pretoria, South Africa.
Wow.
Um, and it was a beautiful experience. I hope to go back this year because it was just beautiful. But I think it was even more, oh God, magical. We're gonna say magical. Um,
Wow.
that I got to sit with women from just about every age group, right? It wasn't just like older women or younger women. No, it was women. I think my youngest participant was late 20s, and my oldest participant was late 60s, So I was able to see on a spectrum the experience of the Black woman from a South African perspective. And there were so many commonalities of what it means for us as African American women, and there were very distinctive differences, but it was such an amazing experience to be received, like to
Wow.
be welcomed and to be loved and accepted as a sister, literally from across the ocean. I can't tell you the number of times I heard, like, no, you just came back and got us. Like, you just can't, you're just following up on, what your great, great, great ancestor left behind. So it was that beautiful full circle moment where
Wow.
I was able to reconnect with the motherland, like figuratively and literally. So yeah.
Wow. Wow. That's beautiful because what they show us on TV, and everybody that have gone to Africa comes back with a whole different outlook and different conversation and different experience than what you actually see on the TV. And for that, not only Africa, even for the Middle Eastern countries that they show you. But
Yes.
once you there and you visit, it's like these are some beautiful countries.
Yes.
And I don't take nothing from where I'm at, the United States, but
Right.
I'm about to go to Dubai, and I'm putting out. And from what I heard, Dubai is way better than over here in the United States. I'm
Amen
just
to
saying,
that.
more beautiful. So
Amen.
I'm just saying, I just hear like, don't just stay here. Travel, guys. If y'all can travel, if I don't tell you nothing else, I travel.
Yes.
I make it. I travel,
Yes.
and I think in our community we don't travel enough. We don't take our kids
Mm-hmm.
nowhere for them to see outside of what they're seeing in front of them.
Yes.
And they think this is the only way of life, but it's not. It's a big world out there. And like you
It
said, I never been to Louisiana, but something just told me that I was destined to be in New Orleans. And that's when those 4 years really, really
yes.
grew, was
Yes.
a big part of my life and where I'm at now. So that
Yes.
so yeah, so that's huge.
If I could offer just a small nugget to any person who is like right at that precipice, maybe you 17, 18, you go away to school. I'm not saying go across the country, but I am saying go away to school,
Yes.
because there is nothing like being on your own and having to figure it out. You learn so many necessary and crucial life skills when mom and dad can't be an hour away from you. And I think one of the best decisions I could have ever made for my life was to go. I was 1,800 miles away from my people. And it was a completely different culture shock, but I needed that because it humbled me. It made me really, I have to be an adult. It taught me that the world is not, listen, it's not fun and games out here. It's real life out here. And when you're 18, you kind of have this complex that, oh, I'm grown, oh, I know what I'm doing, oh, I know. And when you're 18 and you're away from home, you get smacked in your face. Like, you realize just how not grown you are and how much you need to learn. And so I think, big plug, if you can go away to school, go away to school, and it will teach you something.
That's what I told my kids. My oldest daughter, she went to North Carolina. My youngest daughter, she's in Baltimore. My son, he's in community, but once he finished with his associates, he leaving up out of here. He going away. Cause I told him, I was like, y'all can't stay. You
Yes,
can't stay
yes,
because you're not gonna grow and you're not gonna learn underneath mom and dad. You gotta get out there and you gotta figure it out. You
correct,
gotta figure it out. And I
correct.
would tell anybody, I don't care if your kids got to go an hour or two away, could be in the same state,
But they need
but
to
they
go.
got to go. They
They need
got
to
to
go.
go
They need to
because
go.
they got to learn to live without you and figure it out.
Yes,
That's where your growth come in. Your growth don't like, and that's why I tell my son all the time, I'm like, oh, you know, you're getting up out of here after this associate. Oh, you getting up out of here, but because you got to go right. And then my youngest daughter now she has her own apartment in Baltimore. She come home, she be like, oh, I'm just letting y'all know I'm leaving tomorrow. I'm going back because
yes,
she's so used to having her own,
yes,
right? Her own rules. And I be like, hey, long as you safe
yes.
and you know what we expect, okay, see you later. So that's what's up. So what's next? So what's next for Tierra? What's next for you?
Um, oh, so many things. So as I mentioned, I'm finishing my PhD. I plan to graduate in October. I'll have it in international psychology. So I hope to be able to do a lot of things with that. One of them, I hope to be able to replicate my research. So, my research looked at Black South African women and how they use stories and storytelling as a way to combat racism and race based stress. And so, I hope to be able to replicate that again in a different country, but same, type of community. So, I'm thinking about Brazil, Afro Brazilians. So,
Nice.
I'd love to be able to do that. I would also love to just be able to turn that work itself into some level of curriculum. So I'm building that right now to be able to teach it back to other people. I miss education, so I think I want to go into teaching at the graduate and professional level. Um, I am currently, so I don't know if y'all saw me. I sip tea all day long. I love tea.
Yes.
And so I build and curate my own herbal tea blends. And so I hope to be able to market that before the end of the year, have a couple pop up shops, have an Etsy shop, online store, so that people can access those things. Because I definitely believe that the mind, the body, the soul are all connected. And
I want
seafood.
to know, but wait a minute. I want to know. You ain't never tell us this, and I'm just saying we like tea. Like I'm like you ain't never tell. I gotta tell a group about this. You ain't never tell nobody. Wait till they hear it. Wait till they. I hope
It's
they watching out.
coming.
I hope they watching out. I hope they're watching out here. Yeah, Tiara, she does tea, and all of us drink tea while we ain't know about this store. But okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It's going to you all will have known I was hoping to launch in the latter half of like this quarter, so everybody would have known. Okay, let's see. But that's another thing that I'm working on. And then
Great.
I think the last thing I'm kind of just impassioned around. I think I'll always be a therapist in some capacity. I think I'll always want to hold space for people in my community to heal and grow and transform. And so I think I'm building out how I would want to create that type of opportunity and environment, because I also know tons of social workers, tons of therapists, and I would love to be able to um, create an infrastructure where all of us as Black clinicians can specifically service our people the way we want to service them. So
I
that's
like
maybe like a little bit further down the line, but that's also in the dream of what's next. So
that. I like it. I like that. Yeah, we need to. Yeah, I like that. I like that. That's great.
yeah.
So how can my viewers follow you, support you, so they can see all your stuff that you're doing? You know, yeah.
Um, so I am on social media platforms, IG, Facebook as T the Therapist, TEETHEE Therapist underscore. Okay. So follow me there. I will be doing a lot of updating after this semester because I'm writing chapters 4 and 5, but I will be back in action closer towards the summer. And then, I always like to leave breadcrumbs. So it'll be breadcrumbs around, and I'll throw hints out there eventually.
Okay. So make sure you just send me your information so I can put it down this
I will.
interview so they can be able to follow you on Facebook and all that good stuff. Because God just gave me a venture for me and you, but we'll talk
Okay.
offline about it. Um, so if you can leave my viewers with a little bit of nuggets,
Yes.
especially my young people with some wisdom,
Okay.
uh,
I
what would
would say I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna tweak it though, but I'm gonna tell you what one of my long time teachers, mentors tells me every time we talk. Um, they tell me to stay hungry, stay grateful, and stay curious. That's what I would offer. Just stay hungry. Always find something to spark that hunger, that drive, that going after something in you, and see it through to the end. Stay grateful. It's good to be humble. It's good to always offer gratitude for where you are, where you're going, and what you have already accomplished. And then stay curious. Curiosity is what keeps us young. It's what keeps us going. It's what keeps us on the verge of discovery. So those are my words of wisdom. That's what I carry with me.
okay? Okay, great. Well, thank you for coming on, tuning in. You're gonna see her again. You're gonna see. God gave me some. You're gonna see her again. You're gonna see her again. You're gonna see her again. But I thank you for coming on
Thank you for
and just sharing your story, guys. Especially to my young people. Tia is only 28,
having me.
and so much accomplished.
Thank you.
I mean, and so much, like she said, she's driven.
Yeah.
There's nothing you cannot accomplish,
Thank
nothing
you.
you cannot do. But like she said, you got to stay hungry.
Yeah,
And
you got to
you
stay
gotta stay
hungry.
serious. And guess what? That's not just for the young people. That's just for us too. Us middle aged people that seek entrepreneurship or have their own business or in the community helping as an advocate.
Yes,
We gotta stay curious and we gotta stay grateful and we also gotta stay hungry.
yes,
And if we do all that, gotta do the rest.
yes.
So in saying that, guys, have a great evening. Enjoy your weekend. Be safe out there in these streets. COVID is still real, and it seems like it's getting cold, then it get hot. So it's a lot of, different pneumonia and all that's going on. So make sure whatever shots you need, make sure you get them. But just make sure you stay humble and grateful and curious
Yes.
and hungry.
Yes.
Yes, I like that. And just make sure you keep enduring. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it until you reach the top. So in saying that, have a great evening and thank you for tuning in to YBC Youth Building Conversation. Would you like to say anything else, Tia, before we?
I'm grateful to be here. It was great to be here.
Okay, great. I'm gonna try something new this evening, y'all. Let's see if it happens.